So today we're looking at the Two of Swords. So the Two of Swords talks about the need to make a big decision or just a decision. It talks about indecision or maybe avoiding making a decision or not having enough clarity to make a decision. So it can talk about a lack of clarity and not needing to find clarity. It can talk about compromise between opposing choices and the tension that can occur when you are faced with a decision and you're finding it difficult to make the choice between the two things. So let's get into the symbolism on this card. So starting with the lady here, as you can see, she has a blindfold on. And the blindfold represents a lack of clarity, being unable or unwilling to see the truth or avoiding a decision. The crossed swords that you see here symbolise a stalemate or a difficult decision. They indicate a balance that must be struck and the tension of two opposing choices or forces. In the background you can see a clear sea of water with rocks in it, which signifies emotional undercurrents and potential challenges beneath the surface. So the calmness of the water suggests that emotions are being kept in check, but the rocks indicate underlying issues that need attention. And then up here at the top you see a crescent moon in the sky, which symbolises intuition, subconscious thoughts and the need for inner reflection. It suggests that the answers may not be immediately clear and requires introspection. So we're looking at the meanings of the Two of Swords and why or how it might come up in a reading. So this card, it highlights the challenges of decision making and the importance of seeing the truth or having to face reality to be able to make the best decision. When this card comes up in a reading and we're talking about decisions, this is a decision that needs to be made. It can't be avoided. If this decision isn't made, or if you're trying to ignore the fact that you need to look at something and you need to make a decision on something, then it's always worth advising when doing a reading and this card comes out that if the decision isn't made, then this is going to block your progress moving forward. Until this decision's made, then nothing can move forward. So it's really important when this card comes out that we address that there is a decision that needs to be made, and it has to be made. We can't ignore it or avoid it. So it might be quite difficult. It might be quite a difficult decision to make. So the card also focuses on a need for balance and also clarity. So it might be that the decision, in order to make the decision and to make it in the best way, it might be that you need to gain more clarity. Maybe you haven't got enough information around what it is that you're trying to make the choice around. And so it can be asking you to maybe research more or to look further into something, but just to gain that extra clarity in making the decision and moving forward. It can also be, rather than you not actually having the clarity, it can also be more of you refusing to see the truth in a situation, or ignoring a situation, or avoiding the decision making process altogether. So it might be that you're trying to block it out and pretend it's not happening, that this decision doesn't need to be made. But this card is very much saying to you, look, you can't leave this. You need to see this. You need to see the truth of reality right now. It does usually indicate that it can be quite a difficult choice, and that you are very unsure in which path to take when this card comes up. It's not a straightforward decision usually where where you're able to make the decision straight away without hesitation. As this card also focuses on finding the balance between the opposing choices, it's also usually good advice in the reading to suggest something like
making a pros and cons list to help you in the decision making, because you'll be able to get more clarity on which side of the decision is better for you. Though we've spoke about how it can talk about you avoiding making the decision because it's a hard decision to make, similar to that, it can also talk about you just completely being blinded to a situation, so not even seeing the truth in something that, you know, that isn't necessarily right, or something that isn't serving your life well right now, and just a total turning a blind eye to a situation. And almost because you know deep down that if you were to see the truth for what it really is, then you know you would be forced into making a big decision around that. I think, like, to try and give an example of that, I'm just trying to think how it's come up in a reading for me. I had a client once, and this person, they didn't say an awful lot, but that the Two of Swords was the first card that came out for them in the reading, and straight away I said, you've got a big decision to make, and they agreed. They said they had. And when we pulled more cards to look into it, the decision was, she was like extremely in love with the person that she was with, her partner, but they'd been together a long time, and as they'd grown up together, he was still doing a lot of the things that they did when they were younger, like spending money irresponsibly, not saving, maybe drinking too much, things like that. Whereas she was wanting to start saving for a mortgage, and kind of do the more grown-up things, but they weren't really on the same page. And that's why she had come for the reading, because I suppose that was her way of kind of like finding clarity. So like how I suggested before about making a pros and cons list, for her, she possibly just needed the advice of another person or a complete outside force, such as the tarot cards. I wouldn't normally advise that we make massive big life decisions like that based on a tarot reading, but even so, the reading was able to give her a little bit of clarity and maybe just see things from a different perspective. So it did help. But that's how the Two of Swords can come up in a reading. Which then leads on to another way it can come up. It can just come up to say that the person is experiencing some kind of inner conflict right now, where they might feel torn, a bit like that lady's situation that I just spoke of, where your mind might be telling you one thing, but your heart is telling you another thing. And although the swords do represent air, which is more associated with the mental body, which would be the mind, the swords does also, this card does still, you know, ask us to still to feel into the situation, use our intuition. There's a lot of water in the card, and we have the moon up here, and although it, like I said, it is more of a mental card, it's still about finding that balance between the heart and the head, or even the head and the heart, and kind of coming to some kind of compromise between the two, and just working out realistically in the moment what the outcome it is that you want to achieve, and so then therefore which decision is going to be the best way for you. So this is actually quite an intuitive card, and it does kind of suggest to you, when it comes up in a reading, that although swords are very much focused on the mind, this card is kind of telling us that we do already know what's best for us. We already have the answer to the choice that we need to make, and which choice is better for us. So it is kind of encouraging us to, as well as use our mind and look at things realistically and see the truth in a situation, it's still telling us to trust our intuition and feel into what that is trying to tell us to, because that will always be offering us guidance.